Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Choose to Challenge Mindset Alchemy. I am Constance Wills with co-host LaWanna Bradford, and we're going to talk about, can fear and fearless coexist? Can boldness and shyness coexist in one person? I'm going to bring my co-host LaWanna up now. Hello, LaWanna. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Connie. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And here we are with another episode of Choose to Challenge Mindset Alchemy. And I'm just excited to get into this subject a little bit.
Yes.
So basically, this was a Constance thought, right? She was thinking, can fear and fearlessness exist at the same time? I know last time on our show, we talked about how I had allowed fear to rule my life, how I had allowed fear to make decisions for me that I had not even thought fear made. But when I had that aha moment, I realized that. So today we want to unpack a little bit, can fear and fearless coexist in one person? What do you think? Can they?
I think that there are different sides of us that will manifest depending on the situation. One example may be a person is very, very fearful about being out in public. Use that as an example. They just don't like the crowd, so they tend to, shrink a little bit. But let's say that same person who's shrinking is there with their child, and somehow their child gets lost in a crowd. All of a sudden, that person doesn't see the crowd. That person has become Superwoman, right? And she is running through trying to find her son, pushing people aside. Yes, I made him a son, but pushing people aside just to get to the child, right? So that's an example where I think very much if you, I can use this as a real world example with me. I'm not afraid of water. I'm not afraid of swimming in the ocean, anything like that. However, I am afraid when I see beware shark infested waters, right? The likelihood that LaWanna is going to swim in those waters is slim to none. Well, I had taken the kids, my niece and nephew, to on a Disney cruise, and we stopped in the Bahamas. And they had, the ropes and things up telling people not to go beyond a certain point because there had been some shark sightings. And this was, a bit away from us. I'm like, okay. And so then there was another area where the kids could swim out, and it was like this little water fortress. And they could swim out there and go down the slides and swim back. Not terribly far. And I told the kids, I said, make sure you stay close on this side. Don't venture over there because it says, possible shark sightings. Okay, you got it, Auntie Juana. So I'm sitting there on the beach reading my book. And the next thing I know, I hear Mason screaming for Madison to come back. But they're in these little round buoy things paddling out. And Madison, all I saw was Madison go underneath the rope. And Mason's looking at me. Suddenly I didn't think shark or anything. I am running, I am swimming like crazy to get her and pull her out. So that's an example of what I have on my own said, oh, let me go and venture and dare the sharks to attack me. No. But when I saw that my niece had actually put herself in possible harm's way, I was going to do everything so that she wasn't shark bait, because I couldn't imagine calling my brother saying,
I'm bringing one home. Me and Mason are on our way back.
Yes.
Okay, what? Yeah, Madison, I can only imagine seeing you though. I'm sorry, I can imagine seeing you losing it, going out there under the rope, just trying to get her back and reeling her back in. Oh my goodness.
And Madison is the type, she is truly that fearless person. However, when it comes to public speaking, she's totally fine if it is nothing personal. But when it comes to maybe she's giving a toast to her grandma or something, and it's in a room full of people, you see a totally different side of her. It's like, wait a minute, Madison, you just did a school presentation, no problem. But when it comes to her showing the heart of Madison, she
Yes. Yes. Wow. So yeah, that makes all the difference. And you know what? That's a great example because many of us, even it might be that small of a thing that we seem to be fine. We could speak in public, we could do whatever it is, but it could be when I have to speak in public about myself, right? When I have to be vulnerable, that could be when that little bit of shyness, that timidness, I don't like to call it fear because I don't like to give fear credit, but that shyness, that timidness, that I'll use fear for this in this instance, but I feel like there could be that. That was a really good example, honestly, because with me, my personal example, I was considered to be timid and fearful all my life. I was always the one that was clinging on to mom behind her, never wanted to go and do anything. I'd be in a situation where other kids were there. I didn't want to go play because I didn't know what it was, but I was scared and fearful. And when I chose the career path I did, people who knew the old Connie and they knew how afraid she was of her own shadow, they questioned me. Like, how in the world are you doing that? And I had to let them know it was something, inside of me that knew I had to do the job. It was the job. I had a passion for what I did, and I wanted to see people live a different life and to be, better and to do what the judge asked them to do and to get out the criminal justice system. So I made sure I was there for them. So LaWanna, that's why I can totally see the examples you gave, how you became super aunt and you ran out and got her, even though ain't no way, you're like, ain't no way I'm going that shark infested water. And I can also see Madison's example as well. Yeah, I'm a great public speaker and stuff, but when it comes to that one-on-one public speech out, but there's other people listening, because maybe if I was just talking to grandma just by myself and her, that'd be fine.
Right.
But now all you all are tuning in. So I think that's how a lot of us feel about that boldness and shyness thing. I think what we don't understand is that we are multifaceted and it's okay to have that boldness, to have that shyness, to get out there and do what we have to do and to retreat. Do you think sometimes the retreat might be just that way that we sort of reset too?
Oh, definitely. I think, and just for me personally, and I don't know if I will necessarily classify it being fearful or fearless. It's just, who you are, whether you're an introvert or extrovert, ambivert. And I am an introvert, and most people are like, that's literally impossible. How can you be an introvert? You do these TV shows, you're out networking. It drains me, right? So that's another side of me. So then when I'm in my element, I literally can sit in a room of people and not say a word and be as happy as happy as a lark. It doesn't mean I'm fearful. It's just I don't want to talk. I enjoyed watching the dynamics, but I also realize that can give a false perception. So that's why I'm bringing that up. Someone could see it and say, "Oh, look, she's, either she's antisocial or she's timid or she's fearful. She's a wallflower." No, sometimes you do things by design because you're very self-aware, and it's a way to protect and insulate your emotions from being drained. And then when it feels comfortable, then you step out. And I'm going to bring up Michael Jackson, for example, because there's been a lot of conversation about the duality of him. Stage persona, bigger than light, right? Tens of thousands of people. And he's in his element. But then one-on-one, smaller settings, very different personality manifests. And so now the question is, who was the real Michael? Were both of them really Michael? Or was one created? And I'm not talking about the stage persona, where we saw the timid side of him. Was that a created part of his mystique? Where did he really lie? I think when you look at him as a child, he was a natural performer. So we can say, yes, that was truly him. But then you have this person who gives this mystique, being shy, quiet, demure. But then you have friends and people who were close with him said, oh, that wasn't him. He spoke in a normal voice. And you're wondering, who's who? So I think there's times when we create an alter ego. Beyonce, right? Sasha Fierce, an alter ego.
Yes.
And is there anything wrong with it? I don't know.
That's a good point. I love that self-awareness part that you brought up, but that's a good point. Do we create an alter ego? Do we create it purposely, or does it just happen? And is it okay? Because does that alter ego help us remain self-aware? Does it help us, like you had said before, protect our own selves? Does it help us to reset? If we, especially you have a life like Beyonce or Michael Jackson or almost any entertainer, etc., that has to be this personality outside of themselves. Do they do it on purpose, or does it just happen as a means of our own body protecting itself, our own mindset protecting itself? That's something to really look into, LaWanna. That was very, very interesting, because I believe that we can be authentic in any state we're in. I believe authenticity is there in any state that we're in. But let's tackle some more of this. I mean, why do we do it? Why are we shy and bold and the same being, the same day, the same time? And LaWanna, I can tell you, I never thought you were ever reserved like that. And I will call it reserved because now I know LaWanna, and I know that she is very reserved when she's not here talking to you all or in a space where she has to do that. LaWanna is very reserved. She's very watchful. She observes a lot. She observes a lot more than she says, than she lets you know. She will be observing the whole time. So I know when she's in her quiet space that there's a lot going on. Don't let it fool you, because it's a lot going on internally. So I think that is a way for all of us. I mean, we're not all like LaWanna, we're not all like Constance, we're not all like that, but I think that duality is a way for all of us to be whole.
Yes.
For lack of better words.
We'll be back in a moment to talk a little bit more about, can fear and fearless coexist?
Hello, welcome back to Choose to Challenge Mindset Alchemy. And we're so glad you're here with us. And you know what I thought about during the break, LaWanna? I thought and this is about you particularly, I thought she is powerful in public, but quiet in private. And I'm not talking about quiet as a mouse that can't talk to you, but quiet in private. And as I just said, I did not know this about LaWanna. We've known each other most of our lives. And I always thought she was just bold, and she was, she was just always that way. I always thought that was her. She's bold, she's out there, and no. So I think that duality in us is so important. I think that duality, and I think that really makes us more authentic.
Right. And the interesting thing is, especially women in business, the one thing that we hear, you want to be authentic, you want to be transparent. You have to do it in moderation, and you have to be wise in your decision and how much of you are you going to put out there, and what's the purpose of it. I mean, to tell all just for the sake of telling all because someone says be transparent, not everyone's meant to hear everything about you. But I think if anything, if anyone you need to be transparent for is yourself. As Shakespeare said, to thyself be true. You've got to be able to look that person in the mirror, as Michael Jackson said, man in the mirror, and really be okay with what you see reflected back at you. And if you don't like what you see, make the change. And that change starts with, as Connie always says, mindset.
Yes. We have to make the mindset change, and even accepting the fact that we might be bold, but we might also be quiet. We might be outspoken, but we might also be shy. And knowing that it's okay to be those things in the same body. It's okay, but it's a mindset shift to tell yourself it's okay. We don't want to talk about our shy or timid side as if it's negative. And that's the other thing I wanted to touch. Many times we act as if the shy side or the timid side is a negative, and it's not a negative. I want to let you know that's an authentic part of you. So what do you think? I mean, have you ever heard people sort of almost like shy is looked at as negative, or being timid is almost looked at as a negative, and being bold or outspoken is looked at as a positive? Have you ever seen that, LaWanna?
Oh, yeah. It's definitely. And I'm thinking back just on me. I think sometimes our shyness is almost pressed upon us out of fear, out of being told a certain thing. We came up from the generation children should be seen and not heard, right? So maybe you were this rambunctious kid and just really excited and want to burst in the room and tell everyone about this great story and fantasy that you have, and your parents are like, hey, this is adult conversation, go sit down. And suddenly you start to shrink, right? And you don't realize that's what's happening to you, but these little impressions of reminding you that you should stay in your place, and that place is staying small because you're not worthy to be in these conversations, right? To hear children should be seen and not heard. Think about that being
Ooh,
imprinted on you over and over again. And then you
yes.
wonder why some people are afraid to speak up or trying to find their voice.
Wow. That's big right there. That what you just said was a mouthful. And I hadn't thought of it that way.
Because
We
I want
were
to
told.
share this with you, if I may. I
Yes.
apologize, my allergies are acting up. But when I was in elementary school, and I'd say kindergarten to probably third grade. So if you look at all my report cards, it's like I got all A's, but then the teacher's comment, LaWanna just doesn't know how to sit in her seat and be quiet. After she finishes her work, she's running all around the room. And I would get in trouble when I would come home. My mom was like, I cannot believe, you're doing all of this good, but then you're disrupting. So to me, as a child, I'm hearing Okay, in public, if I'm talking, then I'm being disruptive. And then again, paired with children should be seen and not heard. And so I think I, out of protection, naturally became more reserved. And that became like a safe space for me in group settings. Now, obviously, if I've got to perform, then I think there's this part in me that's pure and true, like that little girl running around. And that's why I can just be on so quickly. But then it's also so exhausting. And I go back to what's most comfortable and safe for me.
Wow. And do you think it became exhausting because of the words that were spoken to you as a kid? Do you think that's why it's exhausting? Because you were told, okay, you're not supposed to do all that. You got to sit down. You got to quiet down now. Because I remember, and I was quite the opposite, absolute opposite. Did well academically, but I did not say a word unless they made me. I sat in class quiet, and the teacher would write on my report card, Connie doesn't participate in the group discussion. She does not raise her hand with the answers. She does not, but yet she knows them because we know from her work she knows, but she will not say a word. And one reason I can tell you right off that, one reason I really, and it wasn't when I stopped doing it, but I think I had tried to be a little more vocal. And there were people that knew me, kids, and they told me to quit acting like a know-it-all. So if I had the right answers, I wasn't going to give them anymore. I wasn't going to give them anymore. And I just sunk back into that shyness and quietness. And that carried me all the way through my career. Even though I stepped out, like LaWanna said, you step out boldly in what you have to do. When you're done doing that, shut right up. I would sit in a 3-hour unit meeting and they would go around the table, round robin. I'd be like, here we go again. I've got to say something. You have anything to say, Connie? Nope. Knowing I had questions, but I wouldn't do it. I found myself not too far back. It was around the aha moment time that I was still playing small. I was still playing that role in a group setting where I had a question and probably 15 other people had the same question, but we were all afraid to ask it. So finally, I asked a question. It felt awkward. Now this is me. This is the 62-year-old me. I felt awkward. I felt out of place. I felt like, why am I doing it? But I asked it anyway. And that one little bit of victory gave me the confidence to know I can speak out in any situation, not just when I'm speaking on stage or when I'm doing a show like this or something, but any situation I can speak out. Now I have to push myself because I know who I am, and I know I won't if I allow myself to sit back in it.
Right. Yeah, I think in both of those examples, with our childhood, it does make you wonder, those repeated messages that come. And it doesn't end up being imprinted subconsciously. And it does dictate our actions, with right, wrong, or indifferent, it just is.
Mhm.
But once you become aware, then you decide, is it benefiting me or hurting me? I mean, for me, I think being quiet doesn't hurt me. I have no problem speaking my mind when I need to, but I also don't need to be the center of attention in a room.
Yes. Yes. And back one more time to that school. I love that school example. I'm so glad you brought that up, LaWanna, because even my oldest grandson, he was that kid on the stage early in life. He wasn't afraid to talk. He wasn't afraid to get in people's faces. He was just as inquisitive. He was that kid. But here comes school. And in kinder, I'll never forget. I used to go sit in his class sometime. My daughter taught the same school. And Jalen would be sitting by himself at his own table in the front of the class. And I would ask the teacher, and I'm looking at Jalen like, what did you do? And I'm asking the teacher, oh, he gets done with his work and he just talks too much. He's trying to get in everybody else's face and they're not done with their stuff. So at that point, I'm thinking, well, is there a different way to teach maybe? Or a different way to make him, to not deflate him? He's getting his work done. Very bright kid, but he's also everywhere talking, socializing, this little social butterfly. I'm sure LaWanna can relate to that. But I had never thought of it that way, that can shut your voice down.
Yeah, it can.
Literally can shut your voice.
When you said that, I got to share this. My cousin, who is now an adult, but I remember hearing the story. He was in, I think, first or second grade, and just a busybody doing his thing. Very, very bright child. And he ended up getting in trouble. And so his parents had to come to the principal's office. And they were like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. Why did you call both of us into the office? And the principal said, because it's very concerning, his behavior. And they said, well, what? They said, well, first of all, he does his work, but then he's always talking. And they said, okay, but you called both of us in. They said, yes, because this time he took it a step further. When the teacher told him, look, we need you to sit down and just be quiet while everyone else finishes their work, he climbed up on the desk and screamed, I can't, the devil is in me. And so his mom and dad had to come in and try to explain to them that they weren't doing weird things in the home. But that was him. But what's interesting is he's now, of his siblings, he is very quiet.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, even around us as a family, he's quiet. He listens when he talks. I mean, it's like there's so much energy and power, but for the most part, he just sits back. And we met last summer. We had a reunion and we brought that up. I said, do you remember that? He goes, I remember.
And that makes me wonder, has that had some impact on us as a whole, on especially our generation?
Right.
Maybe before that, maybe a little bit after. We were told children are to be seen and not heard. We were sat at the children's table. We did not, even when we went out to eat after church and stuff, I can remember sitting at the kids' table. Now, I can remember me, I was so shy. My mother let me sit by her because I didn't want to sit with those kids and talk to them because I had nothing to say to them. And nor did I have anything to say to the adults. And I really wasn't interested in their gossip or whatever it was. But I just really wonder, is that part of the reason because you're right. As a child, you know who's already out there, who's already gonna take life by the horns and gonna ride life like that, because kids show you early who they are. But
They do.
I wonder if that's part of why we turned out the way we did. And I'm sure it is, because we know we are shaped by our environment as well. I'm sure that's part of it. Now you're like, now I got to be careful what I say when I say it. I got to be careful now. So I'm just going to be quiet. And but you have turned yours into something very useful for you. You use that time to reflect, to think. You're always watching. You're watching the people. You're watching what's going on, but you're not always speaking. You're not always, out there. I have to be the center. Like you just said earlier, we don't have to be that. We are, like I said, multi-layered, right? Multi-layered. And that's authentically us. And I think it's something we just have to accept and use it to the best of our ability. I think we have to just accept that.
And sometimes individuals who, and this is LaWanna's view of the world, feel like they have to be the center of attention all the time. Or there was a song, a rap song back in the 80s. It said, you talk too much, homegirl, you never shut up, right? And it was all about just someone just talking incessantly. And sometimes I think that on the flip side, these are individuals that may have their own another type of insecurity, right? So it's like I've got to put on this mask, this persona that's so outgoing, because I don't want people to see the real me. I have to be the loudest and biggest in the room, because if people saw who I really am, then maybe they wouldn't accept me.
That's
So,
true.
I mean, I don't know. We're not psychologists or therapists. We're just having a conversation here, about just the different things that you may feel in your lived experiences. And but if you are someone that is kind of struggling with feeling oppressed, or repressed in some way, please reach out for anyone to talk to. Reach out to professionals. The information is below. If you feel that you're in crises, 800-662-4357, or text 988 here in the US. Again, we are here just having a conversation, sharing some of our lived experiences, and then what we see in and around the world. And that's how we came to this topic today. Can fear and fearless coexist? And I think we can say, yes, it does.
Yeah, I think there's a resounding yes, yes, and just like LaWanna just said, we are here just chit chatting about this, and we want you to take this conversation, take it into your living room, talk about it with your friends, your family, and see what different perspectives you all have on this, because it's really interesting that we all, and now since we talked today, we had not talked about the childhood school thing before. That just came out in conversation today. So your conversations are going to be full and interesting because your lived experience, is different, and you might think of some other reasons why this dichotomy is so normal and why it really is authentically you or I, LaWanna.
Yes. We're going to take a quick break and come back, because we're almost out of time, Connie. And I know you're going to give them a couple tips to think about, as they think about, can fear or fearless and fearless coexist?
Are you ready to defy gravity and challenge the impossible? Meet LaWanna Bradford, the visionary leader behind Choose to Challenge on E360 TV. Now in its 5th season, this groundbreaking show shines a spotlight on voices of change from across the globe. Born during the pandemic, Choose to Challenge becomes a platform for transformation where no topic is off limits. Every episode highlights individuals breaking barriers, rewriting narratives, and making an impact. Ready to share your story and inspire change? Call 404-618-2824 to become a guest. This is your moment to rise. Tune in now at e360tv.com. Your voice.
Yes, and we're back. And you know what I wanted to share is that we have self-opposing forces inside of us. You know how it used to show on the TV that the devil will be sitting on one shoulder and the angel will be sitting on the other. Yeah, I remember when you saw that in the older shows. I don't know if they show that anymore. I guess I'm showing my age even more. But it used to be the devil would sit on one side, the angel would sit on the other, and they would be trying to get you to make a decision. I believe that we are, I don't want to say the devil and the angel, but we are sometimes self-opposing in ourselves. We can be two or three or more different, have different, I guess, parts of us. I don't want to say ideologies or anything, but parts of us. And I'm not talking split personality or anything, because that is not my expertise. I would not touch it. But I'm talking about the things that maybe we can be shy, maybe we can be bold. Depends on the day, depends on what we're doing. It depends on a lot of things. And I think we need to accept that we are not one thing. We are layered. We are multi-layered, but all of those layers make us whole. Everything makes us into this whole, beautiful human that we are. And it's okay to question things about yourself. Do not be afraid to question yourself about yourself, because that makes us dig deeper in ourselves and find things out that we never knew. That brings us to the aha moments. The only thing that brought me to my aha moment about fear was me questioning me and going deep inside and saying why. And as LaWanna mentioned earlier, if you feel like you need to do that, but you don't know how, There are therapists, there are counselors, there are practitioners that can help you figure out exactly what's going on inside of you. There's no shame in it. Do it if you need to, because what I want to see is all of us live to our full and greatest potential. So, yes, fear and fearless can coexist. Bold and shy can coexist. But who are you in that dichotomy? Who are you really? LaWanna?
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that's just a perfect ending to what has been a fun yet very serious conversation about fear and fearless, being fearless. And it's really understanding you and how you show up and the different faces of you. And it, as you said, there's nothing wrong with having both. It just is. But the thing is being able to control your own narrative, be comfortable in your own skin, and bold enough to show the world who you are because you're brilliantly, beautifully made. And the world doesn't need to see a mask, they need to see you. So do you, be well. And we look forward to seeing you next month for another edition of Choose to Challenge. And remember, in life and in business, when your vision intersects with opportunity, success is inevitable. And Connie, how do you always close your show?
I close it with, we can all change our lives one thought at a time.
Yes, yes. Bye for now. Be well.
Bye.